Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced by a British biased bloke with a massive Swede full of very questionable wheel knowledge. Broadcast live on YouTube and after the fact on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have a good old natter about each and every Grand Prix of the season. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. Well, what do we have here? Welcome back everyone after a far too long summer break. My name's Tommo and the Dutch Grand Prix is finally upon us. It's here. And things are looking a little bit different around me, aren't they? Look at this surroundings. I think this is the first time I've ever been live, definitely, maybe even recorded a video in my childhood home. We're between houses at the minute. It's a long story. I won't bore you with the details. But one thing that is clutch is that for some reason, my mum, even though she only plays Words with Friends on her phone, has unbelievably fast internet. So hopefully there will be no lag. Hopefully there will be no issues. And if there are, then my mum's to blame. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate you all taking the time. Again, temporary back setup, but don't you worry. Things will hopefully in the near future be better and seamless with the streams. And we are back. And the summer break has been long. I had a nice little holiday, little break, which was nice. And we are now back into the swing of things to talk all about round 15, the Dutch Grand Prix. Thank you all in the chat. Finley, Ultimus, Saul, Seamus, Samuel, Anders, Sherbert, Wade, Simbrew, Rayner, Fiona, Watt, Gladiator Knight, Han. Why is there a mattress? Why isn't there a mattress? Look. Details, okay? It kind of all blends in. And actually, if it was the other way around, this is very these are the old, I don't know what my mum was thinking with these bed covers, right? This is the spare, this is the study in my childhood. This was never my bedroom as a kid. But look at this. Look at this. What is this? Mum, what are you thinking? Awful. Can't have that in the background. So we'll just flip that over. No dulcet tones. And it's good to be back. I appreciate you all being here to talk all about this weekend's Dutch Grand Prix, round 15 at Zandvoort. So let's briefly get the meat and bones of this weekend covered before we dive into a few details. And obviously a very, 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 very exciting news story that came out earlier this week about a certain new team and a couple of not so new drivers returning to the sport. Thank you, Raghav, by the way, for the super chat. Appreciate it. I'm so happy F1 is back as a United fan. I am mentally dead and need a break from football. Side note, Carlos is going to cook in the second half. Try being a West Ham fan, Raghav. All right, you might have lost to Grimsby, but wow, it's not as bad as us. I really actually hope we get relegated so that the board are forced out of the club. But we'll see about that, won't we? So round 15, Zandvoort. We're not talking about football because it is a very sore subject right now. Let's take a look at, many people make the mistake of calling the Netherlands Holland because Holland is a region within the Netherlands, but Zandvoort is actually in North Holland. Who knew? By the seaside, bit of sand, a lot of wind, a lot of breeze knocking about. Check out the bits I did with Jarno as well. Jarno up there. Big up Jarno on the Oracle Rebel Racing and Rebel Sim Racing channels. You can see me having a little chat with Jarno. And Jarno doesn't know what the word intricate is. Any Dutch present in the chat? Do you know the word intricate? Jarno didn't. I mean, maybe it's just the way I pronounce it because I'm a bit funny with my accent, and but 4.26 kilometers, 72 laps around the seaside. I do really want to get to this one next year. Zandvoort is definitely on the list of priority Grand Prix to attend, particularly in Europe, of course, because it isn't that far away. C2, C3, C4 compounds, so pretty in the middle of the range in terms of tyres that we're getting this time out. And the weather, well, look, it's saying Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I pulled these from Google. Bit of rain expected. Even on the Sunday, there's possibly some rain during the day. It's very hard to tell. Again, you're by the seaside. There's a lot of wind. The climate is difficult to judge. It's difficult to get ahead of things. So I would reserve. I think there's a good chance of rain. I think almost certainly it will affect at least one session during this weekend's Dutch Grand Prix. Maybe even the race. We didn't get any rain last time out, but we have had rain in the past. Big rain in Zandvoort. So we know there is the potential for the heavens to open and mix things up a little bit, because as things stand, it's looking like it's only going to go one way in terms of race result, right? Not to dunk on a race before it's even happened, but I'm not expecting anything too crazy. Because last time out, Lando Norris won, but he didn't just win in Max's backyard. He won by over 20 seconds. I think it was like 22 seconds in the end. Qualifying, he was pretty comfortably ahead as well, comfortably ahead of Oscar. Max managed to get himself in between the two McLarens and jumped Lando off the start. Lando did have a bad start, which unfortunately were far too common last year, Lando's dodgy starts. But Lando had the pace. Max tyres fell away. McLaren tyre preservation. Piastri wasn't able to make the inroads either that Lando was. You know, this was a race where there was a pretty significant performance gap in favour of Lando Norris. So this is going to be so interesting to see whether Piastri's 2025 momentum is enough to catch up with Lando and outperform Lando, or at least meet Lando around a track that, 12 months ago, Lando was considerably quicker, both quali trim, got the lap done when he needed to, and in the race just gapped everyone, drove away, and Oscar couldn't hang. Can he this time out? This is going to be very, very key. I really do. If Oscar is the slower driver this weekend, I really do think we've got a championship battle on our hands to the end. I think if Lando can preserve some kind of advantage to Oscar and be the quicker driver like he was last year, I don't expect it to be this to the same extent. It's going to be a McLaren 1-2 unless something crazy happens. And yeah, I mean, Lando's got to capitalise on a track where he's clearly quick, he's clearly very good, and get the job done like he did last time out, ahead of Max and ahead of Charles Leclerc. Oscar didn't even get on the podium. Daniel, thank you for the super chat. Hi, will Verstappen lose at home 2 years in a row? I mean, look, Max can only do what he can do with the hardware that's underneath him, and the Red Bull car has faltered. It's not at the level of the McLaren, clearly not. No one is. And you can certainly argue that the Red Bull might even be the fourth quickest car. It depends how you measure cars, because yes, the peaks, the heights that the Red Bull car can reach with Max at the wheel, it can be, on some weekends, the quickest, if not second quickest car. But the difficulty to extract that performance, not just from the second driver, not just from Yuki, but also from Max at times. He's not happy with this car. He's struggling with this car. Versus a Ferrari or a Mercedes that seems to be a bit more drivable. Just depends how you rank things. Everyone's got their own perspective, and that's all well and good. So, yes, that's what happened last time out. Now, quali head-to-head, we are keeping tabs on the gaps between teammates over the course of this 2025 Formula One season. Rather than head-to-heads don't really tell us much, in my opinion. I think average gaps, and maybe next year I'll do percentages, because that's an even more accurate measurement, and then convert those percentages to time gaps, perhaps. But either way, we are keeping on top of things this year, and these are the averages so far. So the biggest gap on average, of course, is Max Verstappen ahead of Yuki Tsunoda by 0.602 of a second. As we haven't gone through these for a while, I'll go through the full list, and it's kind of broken out into sections, hasn't it? It kind of has over the course of the season. Second biggest gap, George Russell ahead of Kimi Antonelli by 0.328 of a second. Then Fernando Alonso over Lance Stroll, 0.290. Gasly Colapinto, 0.244. So that little glug of drivers, around 2.5 tenths of a second on average. A significant gap, Antonelli, Stroll, Colapinto behind their teammates. Nothing crazy, especially given those are two rookies there in Colapinto, especially Colapinto, who's incredibly underprepared coming into this season. I think that has to be taken into account. I do think, as much as he hasn't been a big step forward from Doohan was way better prepared than Colapinto. And given how relatively close their deficit to Gasly has been, Colapinto's and Jack's, I think Franco's done a decent job. I do. Then Leclerc Hamilton, 0.184 of a second advantage Leclerc. Hadjar Lawson, 0.178 advantage Hadjar. So those two, both about 2 tenths of a second. So far, sorry, I'm Harrow forgetting about Alonso's, of course, a rookie as well. Duh. Then we've got Piastri Norris, 0.113 of a second advantage Oscar. So Oscar has had just, by only a tenth, which isn't much. Oh, by the way, is it just, don't all mums have glasses that are this shape? Vase-shaped glasses to drink? I just feel like that's a very mum thing to do. But when in Rome. Piastri Norris, 0.113 of a second. So it's pretty close, but it is advantage Oscar over the 17 qualifying sessions we've had so far this year. Do I look so sweaty? You know what, Mitya? I'm not actually crazy sweaty today, even though I look it. Maybe it's my holiday glow, although I am very sweaty most of the time. I do suffer with that. And then the close gaps, the closest of them all, Albon over Sainz by 0.058 of a second. Bortoletto ahead of Hulkenberg, which is crazy, 0.036. And then Ocon ahead of Behrman by just 0.022 of a second. So marginal, very, very fine down at the bottom. And we'll see how that pans out by the end of the year. This is 17, but there's still 13 more sessions to go to get some more data to compare these drivers over a single lap. And at the end of the year, I'll kind of segment these into the first half of the season, the average gaps, and then the second half, because I think that'll be interesting to see how the rookies in particular, their quality gaps relative to their teammates change. Perhaps they don't. Perhaps they do. Time will tell. Bosh. So, driver standings, 14 rounds done out of 24. Oscar Piastri has his lead in the championship by 9 points over Lando Norris, and it's going to be one of them two to win it. Otherwise, like, none of these positions really matter because there's no money attributed to your driver's standing position. There's none of that. It's just who wins. Everything else is kind of immaterial. I think, Max to win the championship, as much as he's the best driver in F1, it's just not going to happen, is it? That McLaren, they've built a car that not only is dominant, but is dominant in a way that both drivers can extract that performance, which you have to credit McLaren for that, because for far too long now, Red Bull have only been able to develop a car that Max can extract the ceiling of. And I think that is, to create a drivable car, you could say the same about Mercedes in their dominant era, where Valtteri didn't win a title, no, but he was at qualifying Lewis 30% of the time on average. Still brought home all those Constructors' Championships for Mercedes, 8 on the spin. Red Bull haven't been able to do that, and that's hurt them in the Constructors, even though it has delivered all these world titles for Max Verstappen. And rightly so. McLaren built a car for combat. Jaden, how do I ban you? I am joking, of course. I just watch the F1 movie, but just when they start chanting combat, that's when you need to just mute. If you've got a mute button on the side of your head, just do that then. All right? Where all my grey hairs are now. But yeah, driver standing wise, that's how things are looking. And team standing wise, constructors, this is where all positions do matter, because there is points attributed, not just points for your team, but your bank account, very important, especially to the smaller teams down towards the bottom. So of course McLaren have got this on lock. Ferrari, Mercedes, way up for P2. As things are going, I would expect, I probably would say Ferrari hold P2, in my opinion. Mercedes, I don't think Kimi will score enough. I think he's just not quite there enough for the time, unfortunately. But we'll see. Maybe second half of the season. It's been a deep end season for Andrea Kimi Antonelli. So fingers crossed he makes a bit of a move forward. And I think Red Bull, where that car isn't quite there, they're not. I haven't heard of any big upgrades expecting for the rest of the season. We're getting to that point now where all focus is firmly on 2026, right? And I hope Yuki find that there's been some promising moments for sure for Yuki that he hasn't been able to fully deliver on, but I believe those signs are there. Perhaps that is my Yuki bias inherent. Perhaps I'll put my hands up. Maybe it is, but we'll see, won't we? We will see. And then, the battle for P5 basically is huge. Williams 70 points, Aston Martin 52, Sauber 51, Racing Bulls 45, Haas 35, and Alpine 20. Now, even Alpine, the hands of Pierre Gasly, can get he's got about 8 Q3s, I want to say, this year, something like that for Pierre. And Aston seem to have some good momentum at the moment. Danny, you saying Aston P5 easy? Perhaps, yeah. I mean, they've got very good momentum at the moment. It feels like Williams didn't fully exploit the performance that they had. Albon had his 3 DNFs back, didn't he? And obviously Carlos having his car issues as well hasn't helped things either. So it does feel like that is quite precarious for Williams. But when they do finish a Grand Prix, Williams are typically in the points. And that's the beauty, right? Because all of these point scoring positions, Williams on their day, Aston Martin on their day, Sauber on their day, basically everyone down to Haas, apart from Albon, basically, can give Red Bull, Mercedes, even Ferrari something to think about, can actually give them problems depending on the circuit. So there are plenty of points still on offer. I think Aston will nip Williams for P5. I think Williams will hold P6. I think Haas will outscore Racing Bulls. I reckon there's some good... There's a few tracks I feel like the Haas could be right up there. And other tracks they'll be absolutely nowhere. So I reckon Haas jump Racing Bulls. I reckon Aston jump Williams. That's my prediction, for what it's worth. Yeah, they've been unlucky, Williams, but also they've been masters of their own downfall far too often as well, which hasn't been ideal. Right, okay, so excellent. That is kind of the weekend broadly covered going into this weekend. We will get to bangers and clangers shortly, but of course there has been some very, very big news, hasn't there? A certain Valtteri Bottas and a certain Sergio Perez will be returning to the F1 grid in 2026 with Cadillac. Very exciting. Could have been more exciting if it was a new driver, of course. Colton Herta, Alex Palou, Jack Crawford. Many drivers have been linked, particularly American drivers. And I know Cadillac's, intention early doors was to get a US driver in one of these seats. However, you got to say, and look, we'll do a poll, in fact. Before I get too fast and loose with my opinion, was per bot the correct choice? So I'll do yes. I'll do 4 options here in the poll. So yes, no, bot plus someone else. We'll do no, per plus someone else, or neither. So I'm giving you 4 options in this poll. So either you agree with Cadillac's decision and per bot was the correct choice. You don't agree with Perez and think he should be out, but Bottas stays and swap him around. Vice versa, and neither. I just explained that terribly. So it's been a while since I've been streaming, so forgive me. Forgive me. Let me know what you think in the poll. Because, yeah, ultimately, the pragmatic choice, you can absolutely understand why the board at Cadillac and TWG Global decided that, you're building a team from the ground up. Even Haas took on the old Marussia factory, and they weren't necessarily starting from scratch in the same way that Cadillac are truly starting from scratch. That's still pretty scratch, but not scratch. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So having 2 drivers with the experience of Valtteri and Checo, they might not. There would have been options who have been quicker over a lap, absolutely, but speed over a single lap, where a rookie can come in and we've seen that with Bortoletto, we've seen that with Behrman, we've seen that with Antonelli, put it in pole in Miami, right? But there's so much more to being a top F1 driver and being a top asset to your team, especially a new team, a rookie team, than 1 lap pace. Race management, driver feedback, just the environment, right? Valtteri was part of the most dominant constructor of modern F1 times. Mercedes-Benz, 8 constructors in a row. Even Checo, yes, of course, Max was doing most of the winning. Checo has 6 wins to his name over his career. Valtteri has 10. So their teammates were doing most of the winning, but he was still part of that Red Bull environment. You can understand why, well, look, what have been the 2 most successful teams over recent times? Should have been Ferrari, hasn't been Ferrari. it's Red Bull, it's Mercedes have been successful. You take two key members of those teams who understand not just what goes on track, in the garage, what goes on in the factory, the team culture, all of that stuff. That's all valuable information that then Cadillac can take all that in, disseminate it, and decide, what are we going to do with this? Are we going to go with a more Mercedes approach, a more Red Bull approach, a kind of hybrid? Checo and Valtteri can work. Ultimately, right, one thing you will get is that Cadillac are not going to be fighting at the front anytime soon. So Valtteri and Checo are completely incentivized to just be open books with one another. For their ego, they'll be wanting to out-qualify each other. Don't get me wrong, right? That head-to-head will be important from their ego's point of view. But if they want to build this team and give themselves chance of race wins and a project and something, and if they want to race into their 40s, if they want to do a Fernando Alonso, which perhaps, and I would maybe argue this is something that Lewis could be struggling with at the moment. Lewis has never had a year off. He's always been in the sport since he joined at 22. And Fernando had some time off, raced in WEC, won at Le Mans. Perez has now had his year off. Valtteri's been on the sidelines. But then you come back and it reinvigorates you a bit perhaps. And certainly Valtteri, the way he takes care of himself, I could definitely see him racing into his 40s if he wants to. Now, of course, Valtteri is not a Fernando Alonso in terms of talent and ability, and not a Lewis Hamilton either. But all I'm saying is that they could, if they really want to, now they really want to take care of their nutrition, they've taken a bit of time away, if there is a chance that they can reap the rewards of developing this team and build it up, and maybe in 3-4 years' time it is something serious, perhaps. I hope so, because Cadillac are going to put the bag behind it. I'm absolutely sure of that. So, what do you say in the poll? 313 of you have voted. Was per bot the correct choice? 83% of you say yes, it was the correct choice. And ultimately, I agree. I think if you're going to integrate maybe a Colton Herta, a Jack Crawford, anybody else, a Felipe Drogovic, you do that as a reserve. You do that as a driver development. I believe I was reading an article that Cadillac might be getting some help from Ferrari with some TPC running as well. And they will be building out their own young driver academy, and they will hopefully be offering a pipeline. Maybe Cadillac can work with Indy Next and create an alternative pipeline where drivers could go into F2, F3 or Indy Next. And there's a lot of potential here, having a team that is, I know Haas are American, but unfortunately they're not as American as would be nice. They are very British, as are most and too many of the teams on the grid. What benefit could a rookie provide Cadillac? Look, Henry, and that's why they've not gone for a rookie, right? They're in a position where it might be nice, the idea, very idealistic, to chuck a rookie into the seat and give him an opportunity, absolutely. But they need a driver that they don't need to coach. They need a driver that they don't need to handhold. They need a driver that's going to coach and handhold them almost, right? So, yes, you could have one and the other. You could do the Audi route with Hulkenberg and Bortoletto. And I think that works for a team like Sauber have been around for years, right? They might not have been successful for years, but they know what they're doing. And Wheatley's come in and, a lot of new personnel, Bonotto. And that works for them. I think for Cadillac, from the ground up, with Bottas and Perez available, with their wealth of knowledge, it is a bit of a no-brainer to go from, in my opinion. And we do know as well where, obviously, Yuki's struggling in the Red Bull. Liam obviously struggled in the Red Bull, and it has somewhat vindicated. Perez is not pulled any punches, digged out the media a bit, which, look, I mean, sorry, Checo, but when the results were as bad as they were relative to Max, for as long as they are going to be, of course, the media and the fans are going to be on your case. And it doesn't matter if you're Alex Albon or Pierre Gasly or Sergio Perez or anyone else. So, unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it is. And Red Bull haven't been able to build that environment where both cars have been able to be successful since 2018. Okay, so hopefully 26 changes that. But yeah, I mean, again, them two available, it just makes sense. It just makes complete sense. 82% of you agree. 11% of you think Bottas is correct, but they should have gone someone else. 5% of you think Perez was correct, but they should have gone someone else instead of Bottas. 2% of you think neither. That's interesting that twice as many of you, still a minority, but 11% of you think Bottas and someone else. 6% of you think Perez and someone else. Because I think Perez, if I was to drop one of these, not keep one of these, actually, I don't know. Initially, I was like, right, Perez makes sense. He, he's been part of Red Bull Racing, which has more fresh success. He does bring a lot of financial gain with him, of course he does, and I'm sure that's only going to help seal the deal for Cadillac. And Perez is a very, very good driver. Like, he's proven it, right? And he might not have proven it enough at Red Bull, but when he had his moments, I mean, he should have got, well, he could have easily won in Azerbaijan last year if things had gone his way a little bit more without Lando holding him up, and then obviously contact with Sainz. Bottas was part of a more, the Mercedes success was Mercedes success. Yes, Lewis done the winning, but obviously Rosberg won a title. Bottas was consistently up there and consistently getting podium. I don't know what Bottas's podium rate is, but someone probably find me in live chat, but it was crazy. There's merit to, but I think I probably would have understood more if they'd have gone Perez and then someone else. Maybe Perez and Drogovic. Just go, the full Americas. You got North America covered with Mexico. You got South America covered with Drogovic and Brazil. But yeah, I do think that there probably wasn't a strong enough. I think if Colton Herta had maybe one Indy, and I still don't think he has the super license points, does he, right now? I think if he'd have had a really, really strong IndyCar season and had the super, that would have got him the super license points. I do wonder if they spoke to Alex Palou. Alex Palou would have been very interesting because he would have been a rookie to F1, but he would not have been a rookie to racing by any stretch. And the most dominant IndyCar driver of recent times, right? So I could have seen Perez Palou happening here, but again, these two understand not just racing but F1 and all of the nonsense. So I think for now, for the start of this team, this is the right choice. This is absolutely the right choice, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, exciting times. The content's going to be good. That picture of Valtteri Bottas, I definitely thought it was AI. It's not AI. It's definitely been like Photoshop touched up a little bit, but he did actually. There's some footage of him falling off the surfboard. I reckon it's a bit of a hybrid. I reckon it's a real picture, and then they've gone to town with a Photoshop, maybe with a bit of help, because that US flag is sitting way too pretty there. Way, way, way too pretty. Was it? All right, here we go. Max has got some deets here. So wins Bottas 10, Perez 6, yes. Podiums, Bottas 67 podiums, Perez 39. That's the thing you got to say. Bottas was always pretty consistent at being up there on the podium and giving the Ferraris and Max in his Red Bull and Ricciardo in his Red Bull as well, something to think about as well. So, but yeah, big heavy Photoshop, but based off a real image for sure. Right, okay. Anyway, not much more to say on that. Let's now get into bangers and clangers, shall we, for the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix. Let's get into it, as I've clicked on the wrong graphic, and that's the correct graphic. And Bosch, bangers and clangers. Who's going to win this time out? Now, actually, sorry, Gladiator, missed your super chat. Before we get onto that, feels bad for F1. A rookie gets 6 races plus toss to the trash heap, but 36-year-old out of form for 2 years, not all the car in F1, plus 13 years gets a second chance. The thing is, Gladiator, what you say is fair, is valid, but it's pragmatic. It is the right. If you are Cadillac and you want to maximise your chance of not only success on track but off track as well, building up the team, you go with two experienced drivers. You just do. It would be exciting. Of course, I'd be way more excited if Felipe was getting his chance, if Colton was getting a seat, if Jack Crawford was getting a shot. But it's about success, and they are starting from nothing. So I hear what you're saying, and it would be a bigger story, and it would be a more exciting story. But also, you know, Perez and Bottas have a lot of fans. There'll be a lot of people happy with this. And there's time. It's 22 seats instead of 20, and that's not going to be changing now. So that is a win. And it might not be a win for rookies and young, new, exciting talent right now, but it will be in the long term, I think. That's the way I see it. But I completely do understand where you're coming from. Absolutely. Team principal, they've already got a team principal. There has been, obviously, people linking Christian with everything now. I don't see Christian Cadillac. Christian Alpine would absolutely make sense, but I reckon he might just want some time off. I don't reckon I think it will be a good couple of years before Christian returns to the sport. I reckon it will take some time away because he spent his whole It's mad to think Christian started as a team principal when he's 31. Yeah, and he's in his 50s now, so it's like he spent all of those years in this incredibly intense job at the top of Formula One. I reckon he's earned a bit of time off. I reckon he's earned a bit of time off. But yes, bangers and clangers. Right, so my prediction for the race win for the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix is Lando Norris. I think he was so good around here last year. It's going to be nip and tuck, but Oscar just was... You're asking Oscar to overcome a big pace deficit he had relative to Lando last year. And I think Lando knows his way around it. He's sorted his starts out, seemingly. I think Lando's got it. I think he's going to win this time out, and he's going to close that points gap ever more. But it will be Oscar P2. So it will be 2 points the gap. 2 points! That'd be sick. That would be simply lovely. So I'm going with Lando for the race win. As for you, 1,076 of you voted. Thank you very much for voting in the poll. Don't forget to subscribe to the Tommo YouTube channel. Then you will see the community posts, or follow me on Twitter at Tommo McCluskey. And then you'll see... I also post it on my Instagram, Tommo McCluskey, as well, the polls, so that you can get involved. Because I like when you lot get involved, because it's more fun that way. And shout out to my mum's internet connection, by the way. That's I don't want to tempt fate, but it is doing the job so far on ultra low latency as well, which is excellent. Although this chair is bad for my back. I like standing up when I'm doing these streams, but today I'm sitting down, and it's not a vibe. It's not a vibe. So your winner for the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix, I keep saying it like that because I keep going to say 24, and it's not 24, it's 25. How am I still thinking it's 2024? We're in the 8th month of the year. You've gone Oscar Piastri. 49% of you think Oscar's going to win this Grand Prix. 34% Lando Norris, 12% Max Verstappen, 2% Charles Leclerc. This for me, if Oscar can get the job done here and beat Lando, given how big his deficit was to Lando last year around this same track, I think that really does rubber stamp this championship as Oscar Piastri's. Just because then, if he can overcome that deficit and show that he's not just there with Lando, but he's quicker than Lando around here, then I think, you know, with the races we've got left, Oscar will get the job done enough to win the title. But the thing is, where it's so tight, it just takes one dodgy race, one nut and bolt not being tied up properly, and someone harpooning you from miles back like Antonelli harpooned Max in Austria. That's all it takes. But yeah, 49% of you think Oscar Piastri will win, 34% Lando Norris, 12% Max Verstappen, and only 2% of you, but I see you, I respect you, think Charles Leclerc. That would be lovely. That would be lovely. 2% delusion group. Charles, yeah, true. It's actually Charles de Klerk around. Someone needs to introduce Charles to his Dutch alter ego, de Klerk. because that's got great meme potential, I think. Charles just scranning some stroopwafel. We're all here for it. Banger driver, I've gone Pierre Gasly. He ran very well around here last year, and I think the Alpine will perform relatively quite well around Zandvoort compared to its typical performance. I think they will deliver him a good car, and I think Pierre's very good over a lap. I see him getting to Q3. I see him getting into the points. I'm going Pierre Gasly for my banger driver this weekend. And you have gone for Max Verstappen. 22% of you think Max is going to be banger driver. And to be honest, I think Max, given the deficit the Red Bull had to the McLaren last year around here, and the fact that that gap's only grown, I think, since, if Max can get a podium... Sorry, can you hear my stomach rumbling? It just rumbled for a good 7 seconds then. If Max can even get on the podium, I think a banger drive shout is pretty valid, to be honest. If he can split a McLaren, it's very, very incredibly valid. If he can win the race, then it's a guarantee, right? But yeah, Max, 22% of the vote. 19% of you, Franco Colapinto. Yeah, that is not... I double-checked it. I know sometimes I get these graphics wrong, but that's not wrong. 19% of you, Franco Colapinto, banger driver. I like that. I like that. It's about time. This is a track that bites. This was the track that ended Logan Sargent's F1 career ultimately. The big accident he had around Zandvoort last year, couldn't even qualify in the end because he did too much damage to his car in FP3, which is the cardinal sin. And this one bites. This could be a difficult weekend. And that has kind of influenced my pick for clanger driver, actually. But yeah, 19% of you went Colapinto banger. Hopefully you're right. 8% Fernando Alonso. Agreed. I think the Astons are going to be quick this weekend. 7% Kimi Antonelli. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Because yeah, my clanger driver, I've gone Ollie Behrman. Because Ollie is very quick, but also he's guilty of over pushing a bit. And I'm concerned, and I don't want this to age well. I want this to age badly because I want to be wrong. But I could see a few shunts this weekend, even not in the race, let alone if it rains. But I'm just saying, dry conditions, and I could see Ollie coming a cropper, unfortunately. But, you know, negative jinx will hopefully pay off here. Reverse jinx, lovely jubbly. But yeah, Ollie Behrman, clanger driver for me. That's my prediction. Yours is also Ollie Behrman. 21% of the vote. You must have been thinking the same as me. Because I like to do mine first, so I'm not influenced by you lot. And yeah, Ollie was top of your rating. 21% of you went Ollie Behrman, clanger driver. 14% of you went Franco Colapinto. So Franco's P2 in banger driver and P2 in clanger driver for you lot. So you're very split down the middle, which is fair. 9% Lance Stroll. 9% Lewis Hamilton. Very interesting to see how Lewis bounces back from what was a very, very difficult... Well, it's been a difficult time at Ferrari generally, hasn't it? But especially these last couple of months have been not good. Hopefully these new 26 cars suit Lewis's style a bit better because it just, yeah, he's never really gelled with ground effect, has he, on Lewis? Banger team for me. I've gone Aston Martin. I said this earlier. I think Alonso points, definitely. I think Stroll could sneak a point as well. They were quick around here last year, and I think Aston have definitely found something. Adrian Newey giving his lunch breaks to help out with this 2025 car. Seems to have helped somewhat. Bit late, you know. It's a shame this performance is starting to come right at the end of the regulations rather than delivering this performance after the really strong start to 2023. But it is what it is. So my banger teams, Aston Martin. Your banger teams, Red Bull. 26% of the vote. Very interesting. 21% McLaren. 10% Aston. 9% Williams. I do wonder how Yuki's going to run around here because Checo was actually in quali. I watched quali and the race highlights back before I did this stream. And in quali, Checo was running right up there. He was doing a decent job. He kind of fell away a bit in Q3, but I do hope, based on the last couple of weekends where Yuki seems to have found something, how close he was to Max in Spa, And then obviously Hungary went wrong, but the gaps were tiny. I mean, it was, what, a tenth and a half, wasn't it, between Max and Yuki? So I do hope that this is the sign of things to come. And we know Yuki's got, upgrades on his car, and his car's more in line with Max's now in terms of upgrades. So fingers crossed Red Bull can do something good. And obviously I do the Red Bull post-race report as well over on Talking Ball. So check that out, the Talking Ball race report, straight after the race, where we do a little lowdown, and you hear from Max, you hear from Yuki, and you hear from me. What a world, eh? Crazy. 21%, like I said, McLaren 10%, Aston Martin 9%, Williams for banger. Williams did surprisingly do quite well around here last year, around Zandvoort. And then finally, Clanger Team Racing Bulls. I don't know. I don't really know. It's hard to call because I think Alpine are going to be quick. I think Haas could be quick around here. I don't know. Honestly, we're at the point now, which is kind of great, where this bottom half of the field is so close that, I don't know. Because like some weekends, you've been like, oh yeah, Aston are going to be rubbish. They're rubbish around Spa. Sauber, for ages, we're like, yeah, there's always going to be trash. And then now, like, Alpine, I think Alpine could do a job around here, around Zandvoort. So then it's like, who do you pick? Who do you pick? So I'm going Racing Bulls. I think it's going to be hard for them, either of Liam or Isaac, to make Q3, because I think Alonso's going to be in Q3. I think Pierre's going to be in Q3. I think Albon and Sainz could get into Q3. I've got to throw hands for that one, Tommy. You're forgetting Liam's debut in the rain. Liam's going crazy second half of the season. He's raced on every track in the remaining calendar. Perhaps Mish, perhaps Logan, perhaps you are both right. I'd love to see it because I've got a soft spot for Liam. Of course I have, and seeing him recover 3-point scoring finishes in the last 4 Grand Prix, right? It's good to see. I just don't know. I don't think the Racing Bulls car is going to suit this track as much as the Aston will suit it, as much as the Alpine will suit it. But remains to be seen. Haas might have a hard time. You just never know with Haas, do you? And then finally, your Clanger team is Haas. 29% of the vote for Haas, 19% for Alpine, 12% for Ferrari, 10% for Aston Martin McCutcheon. So there we have it. Bangers and clangers. And actually, broadly speaking, it's only Ollie, clanger driver, that we have gone the same with. So we will recover? We will report back, I can't English, on probably Sunday night. I've not worked out where I'm going to be doing the live stream from. I kind of have to do it from here because this is the source of good internet. But I'm not quite sure logistically how I'm going to make that work. So probably Sunday evening live stream, if not Monday morning post-race live stream. Anyway, cool, excellent. Well, is there anything else I haven't covered, chat? Any other news? Actually, no, there is. Because if we go team by team, Sauber, much to say on Sauber? I don't think so. Bortoletto and Hulkenberg had their nice holiday. Audi have a couple of, I think we already knew about, what was it? No, Tommy Hilfiger, a Cadillac, aren't they? Revolut, we already knew about that with Audi. So I don't think that's news. Alpine, I don't think there's any news. I don't have any, I can't remember anything. They're just Alpine. They've still got Colapinto, so he'll probably stick to the end of the season, which I'm not surprised about. And I think is the right decision ultimately. Ferrari, got nothing on Ferrari for you. Haas, still got nothing. Did they do some TPC in Fuji, I want to say? Was that over the summer break? I think it was. I think it was towards the start. And they took a Haas over to Fuji in Japan. Obviously, the Toyota Gazoo Racing partnership with Haas. Toyota are funding a lot of that TPC running. And yeah, that was pretty cool. You had Tsuboya, I think it was, in the car, and Hirakawa. That was kind of interesting. Oh, that is something. Gladiator, thank you. For Alpine, Colapinto crashed, didn't he? in testing. Well, it was like a tyre test, wasn't it, at the Hungaroring, and Colapinto shunted. Pretty big shunt by the looks of it as well. We didn't get a decent photo. It's kind of a bit of a blurry, pixely one, but yeah, he dropped it. You know the fast kind of left right in the middle sector before you come up to the final sector. I think it was on the right of that he dropped it and hit the wall. That's what I remember off the top of my head anyway. So yeah, not good, not ideal, but he's got the seat to the end of the year. Again, not surprised by that. James Hinchcliffe had a go in the Haas, did he, Sugar Ray? That's pretty cool. If he did, that's pretty interesting. Racing Bulls, yeah, Liam, Isaac, not much to say on them. McLaren, there is something on McLaren. It's the McLaren MasterCard Formula One team. Is that from now or from next year? Because I saw that announcement, chat. Does anyone know? Is it from now or next year? I actually can't remember. But obviously MasterCard are already present on the McLaren, a big sponsor on the front wing, as you can see in this image. It's from next, is it? Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's the same MasterCard deal with McLaren for this year, but it will be the McLaren MasterCard. I'm glad it's not the MasterCard McLaren Formula One team. That would have been annoying. I'm glad McLaren have stuck to their guns of, we will have our name first. It does annoy me that F1 teams put the sponsor first. You should have your name first. That should be mandated. I know it means the sponsor gets a little bit more visibility, but put your team name first, right? You can have a sponsor in your team name, but just put it after. Have team name, sponsor, F1 team. I'm happy with that. Williams, can't think of anything in particular. Mercedes, no. Aston Martin, Red Bull. Same old on that front. That's the only kind of big bit of news that's been recent. Otherwise, it's all been kind of the Cadillac stuff, which has been of interest as I just shook the entire table. Chat, anything else? We have been going for 50 minutes. So, oh yes, Yuki's partnership with Gordon Ramsay. If you haven't seen this, go to Yuki Tsunoda's Instagram account. He is now not sponsored, but Hexclad. If you do want to sponsor the channel, I love cooking. And Yuki Tsunoda is now a Hexclad ambassador alongside Gordon Ramsay. So we know Yuki loves to cook. He wants to have his own restaurant one day. He loves chefing it up. And now he's a Hexclad ambassador. Pretty cool. A nice, you see these brand ambassadors, blah, blah, blah. But like that feels like a nice, like seamless one. You know what I mean? Because like Yuki actually loves cooking. So let him cook. Let him cook. The rumours of Palou. Yeah, so George, there were these rumours knocking about linking Alex Palou to Red Bull. Then I read a bunch of articles after that. Basically, there's been loads of stuff. People saying that came from Palou's manager and it's all nonsense. I think Chip Ganassi Racing in India have said it's nonsense. Yeah, it seems to hold no. I think Cadillac was the opportunity, right? I think Cadillac was absolutely the opportunity, and it's. I do wonder how far, if anything, Alex Palou got with Cadillac discussing that seat, because that would have, I think, commercially, you'd have then had Checo, obviously great for the North American market, understands Formula One after years and years and years over various teams as well. And then you've got Alex Palou, who, all right, he doesn't come from F1, but he's been racing in Indy for years. He'd bring a lot of Indy interest over to F1 and has cultivated his own fan base himself. We know, Fernando Alonso is going to make the Spanish contingent in F1 probably down from 2 to 1 fairly soon because he can't stick around for too much longer. And then Palou would slot in as a new Spaniard on the grid. That would have been cool. I'd love to see Palou get his chance because I think it'd be really interesting to see how he would stack up as someone who has dominated IndyCar the way he has in what I think is an incredible. It's the most competitive in many ways because of the Spec Series nature of it, motorsport series in the world. I think you could absolutely make that argument. So, especially the variety of tracks they race on, ovals, street circuits, proper purpose-built tracks as well. yeah, it kind of ticks all the boxes for me, IndyCar. So that would have been really cool. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think that ship sailed. I think Cadillac was that opportunity, and I think that opportunity's probably gone now, to be honest. Probably gone now. What else? What else? Max and Toto vacationing together. I mean, was I saw a picture. Like, was that legit? I don't know. I mean, look, all these people have relationships, friendships of their own. So, would it surprise me? No. I mean, look, Max holds all the cards ultimately, doesn't he? In whatever he does, he's successful enough. He's the highest profile F1 driver in the world, the best F1 driver, the best racing driver in the world. Full stop. So, if he wants to vacation with Toto, then he can. You know, I wonder if Toto picks up the bill, but I don't know. I don't know enough. I don't know enough about that. The thing is, you can't trust anything now because AI has got so good. Like, I could be AI, for all you know. I'm not, but that is what AI would say. Brilliant. Anything else? I think that's about it. Bosh. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate you taking the time. What I'm going to do now is finish up this live stream, get it uploaded to Spotify for podcasters, and then it will be on all good Spotify, Apple Podcasts, podcast platforms, whatever you listen to your podcast on. You can also listen to this on that after the fact. So you might as well add TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG to your podcast playlist thing, because you might not always catch these live. You might not always catch these on YouTube. You know? Why not? And W Internet. Thank you, Mum, for having insanely good internet for how little you use the internet. Oh, brilliant. Right. Thank you all for taking the time. I do appreciate it. And I'll see you probably Sunday evening, maybe Monday morning, for the post-race CHINWAG for the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix. I hope it's a banger. Fingers crossed. No clangers. Thank you all. Mish, Daniel, Kleiner, Rainer, Jaden, Max, Fives, Kane, Ajinkya, Rainer, Jessica, Harrow, Max, Algiz, Packard, 9volt, Arambra, Jaden, McFillan, Sugar Ray, and the rest of you. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one.